Your left palm has been trying to tell you something and you ignored it. That sudden itch is not random. It is a signal, a spiritual alarm sent through your own body. What if the enemy watches for these signs while you laugh them off? What if blessings, attacks, and divine shifts all announce themselves through your hands? An ex-witch once knew these signals, and now the truth is being exposed to you. Your left hand was never just flesh and bone. It is a spiritual gate. In the dark world of witchcraft, hands are not treated as ordinary body parts. They are seen as channels, spiritual receivers, energy collectors. An ex-witch once revealed that certain body signals were carefully watched, not ignored, not brushed off, but studied. And one of the most important signals was the itching of the left palm. Because in the occult system, the left side of the body represents the receiving side, not the giving side, the receiving side. That means anything trying to enter your life, good or bad, often triggers signals through that side, especially through the hand. Your palm is sensitive. It holds nerve endings, energy points, and spiritual sensitivity zones. Even in ancient traditions, the palm was used for divination, energy reading, and spiritual mapping. Why? Because your hands are spiritually alive. When something begins to move toward your life, money, loss, a spiritual shift, a blessing, or even an attack, your body sometimes knows before your mind does. And the first place that signal appears is often the left palm. The ex-witch explained that when they were performing rituals to transfer something into a person's life, especially financial manipulation or spiritual burdens, they would look for physical reactions in the target. They believed the body would react when the spiritual realm started moving. And one of the most common reactions was an itching left palm. Not every itch is spiritual, but some are, and that is where many people stay blind. Because you have been trained to think everything is either medical or imagination. But spiritual warfare does not announce itself with a calendar reminder. It moves quietly, subtly, through signs. And the body becomes the first alarm system. Think about the times your left palm started itching without any clear reason. No rash, no insect bite, no dryness, just a sudden, unexplained itch. And within hours or days, something shifted in your life. Money came in or money left. An opportunity appeared or a problem surfaced. These patterns are not always coincidence. The ex-witch said that in occult circles, they were taught to watch these signs closely because the human body is not just physical. It is spiritual hardware. And spiritual activity often leaves physical traces. When a transfer was being initiated, whether through curses, financial drains, or manipulated opportunities, the receiving side of the target would often react first. That meant the left side, and especially the left palm. Why the palm? Because the hand represents authority, control, possession. What you hold in your hand, you control. What enters your hand becomes part of your life. So when your left palm begins to itch, it is sometimes a signal that something is attempting to enter your life space. But here's the part most people never hear. The signal is not always negative. Sometimes the itch is a sign of incoming provision, a financial opening, a divine release. But the problem is, many people have no spiritual awareness. So when the signal comes, they do nothing. No prayer, no declaration, no protection, no alignment with God's will. And because they stay passive, the spiritual atmosphere around them stays open. Open doors attract both blessings and attacks. The ex-witch revealed that passive people were the easiest targets. Not the ones who prayed, not the ones who spoke blessings, not the ones who resisted, but the ones who ignored the signs. because an ignored signal is like an unlocked door. And the spiritual realm respects authority. If you do not take authority over your atmosphere, something else will. So when the left palm begins to itch, it is not a moment to laugh it off or just scratch it and move on. It is a moment to become spiritually alert. Ask yourself, what is trying to enter my life right now? Is this a blessing or a burden? Is this a divine transfer or a spiritual setup? Because awareness is the first layer of protection. The ex-witch said that the most dangerous people to attack were the spiritually alert ones, the ones who noticed the signs, the ones who prayed immediately, the ones who spoke life instead of fear. Because the moment a person activates their authority, the spiritual atmosphere shifts. Attacks lose power, curses weaken, and blessings gain access. Your left palm may itch for many natural reasons, but sometimes it is a signal, a notification from the unseen realm. And the question is not whether the signal exists. The real question is this: will you stay spiritually asleep, or will you start responding to the warnings your own body is sending you? In the occult world, money was never seen as just paper. It was seen as energy, transferable, redirectable, manipulated through spiritual channels. An ex-witch once revealed that financial movements often happened first in the spirit, before they appeared in the physical world, and the body sometimes felt those movements before the mind understood them. One of the most common signals? The itching of the left palm, because the left palm was believed to be the receiving hand, the hand connected to incoming flow, incoming transfers, incoming transactions, both physical and spiritual. In dark rituals, when witches attempted to divert someone's finances, block their income, or redirect blessings, they believed the target's receiving hand would react. Not always visibly, not always dramatically, but subtly, quietly, through sensations like heat, tingling, or sudden itching to them. That itch was not meaningless. It was a sign that something was moving, something was being transferred, something was being tampered with. They believed that if the target remained spiritually unaware, the transfer would complete without resistance. And that is what made the left palm signal so important, because it was often the only early warning sign. Think about the times when your finances suddenly shifted, unexpected bills, lost opportunities, delayed payments, strange financial setbacks that made no logical sense. And before those events, did your left palm ever start itching? Many people laugh at this idea. They call it superstition, old myths, cultural folklore. But the ex-witch said that in occult systems, nothing is treated as a coincidence. Everything is a sign. Everything is a signal. Everything is a reaction to spiritual movement. They were trained to observe these reactions closely, because the body was seen as a spiritual radar. When financial rituals were performed, they would often wait for signs in the target's life. Delays, confusion, emotional heaviness, or physical sensation. And the left palm itch was one of the most recognized. But here is the truth most people never hear. Not every financial shift is an attack. Sometimes the itch signals incoming provision, a door opening, a debt being cancelled, an unexpected opportunity forming in the background. But without spiritual awareness, people cannot tell the difference, so they react with fear or indifference, and both reactions can be dangerous. Fear gives power to darkness. Indifference leaves doors open. The ex-witch explained that the people who lost the most financially were not always the poorest. They were the most spiritually passive, the ones who never prayed over their finances, the ones who never spoke blessings over their income, the ones who never questioned sudden financial attacks, because money is not just physical, it is spiritual territory, and territory that is not protected is easily invaded. When your left palm begins to itch, it may be a sign that financial movement is happening around you. Something is shifting, something is being released, or something is being contested, and that is the moment you must choose your response. Do you ignore the signal, or do you take authority? The ex-witch said that one simple prayer from an aware believer could disrupt an entire financial attack, not because the prayer was long, not because it was dramatic, but because it was spoken with authority. Authority changes outcomes. Authority closes doors. Authority redirects transfers. Authority protects what belongs to you. So when the signal comes, you do not respond with fear. You respond with alignment. You speak life over your finances. You declare protection over your income. You reject every hidden transfer that was not sent by God, because the spiritual realm responds to authority, not silence. And silence is the enemy's favorite environment. If the left palm itch is a signal of financial movement, then it is also an invitation to become spiritually alert, financially protected, and spiritually aligned. Because once you understand the signals, you stop being a passive target and you become an active authority. In the occult world, attacks were not always launched immediately. Sometimes they were tested first. An ex-witch revealed that before certain spiritual operations were completed, they would watch for reactions in the target's body. Not because the body had power on its own, but because the body often revealed the state of the spirit. They believed that if a person was spiritually alert, their body would respond and the person would react with prayer, resistance, or authority. But if the person was spiritually asleep, they would ignore the signals completely. And that silence, that ignorance, that lack of response was seen as permission. Permission to proceed, permission to invade, permission to complete the spiritual attack. One of the most common signals they watched for was the itching of the left palm, because to them it was not just a random sensation. It was a test, a signal that something was approaching, something was being attempted, something was being prepared. And the question was simple: would the target notice or ignore it? The ex-witch said they often observed patterns. If the target felt a spiritual signal like sudden uneasiness, strange dreams, or physical sensations and did nothing, the attack was more likely to succeed. But if the target reacted immediately with prayer, worship, or spiritual authority, the operation would often collapse, because awareness disrupts darkness. The enemy prefers silent victims, unaware minds, passive spirits, people who feel the signals, but never respond. Think about how many times you have experienced strange physical sensations with no clear explanation. A sudden heaviness, a wave of anxiety, a restless feeling in your body, or an itching palm that seemed to come from nowhere. And instead of becoming spiritually alert, you ignored it, you brushed it off, you distracted yourself, you told yourself it meant nothing. But what if that moment was a test? Not every sensation is spiritual, but some are. And in the unseen realm, those moments are watched. The ex-witch revealed that dark practitioners believed the body exposed the spiritual state of a person. If the body signaled something and the person responded with faith, they were considered dangerous, too alert, too covered, too spiritually active. But if the person ignored the signs, they were seen as open targets. Because spiritual warfare is not only about attacks, it is also about awareness. Awareness determines outcomes. Two people can face the same spiritual pressure, the same attack, the same negative atmosphere, but the aware one survives, and the passive one suffers. Not because they were weaker, But because they never activated their authority, the itching of the left palm can sometimes be one of those awareness tests, a quiet signal, a spiritual notification, a moment where your body is whispering, something is moving, and what you do in that moment matters. Do you ignore it, or do you respond? The ex-witch said that one of the greatest frustrations in the occult world was encountering believers who reacted quickly, people who prayed immediately, people who spoke protection, people who refused to stay passive, because those people disrupted operations before they could fully form. Attacks need silence, they need passivity, they need ignorance. But awareness breaks that cycle. When you start treating your body's unusual signals as moments of spiritual check-ins, you become harder to target, not paranoid, not fearful, but alert, spiritually awake. Because the goal is not to fear every sensation. The goal is to stay connected, stay prayerful, stay aware of your spiritual environment. And the moment you shift from passive to alert, you change the entire battlefield. The enemy no longer sees an easy target. They see resistance, authority, and spiritual fire. So when the left palm itches, it may not just be a random sensation. It may be a test of your awareness. A moment where the unseen realm is watching your response. And the question remains, will you stay silent? Or will you activate your authority? The ex-witch revealed something that shocked many people. The signal itself was never the real power. Your response was. In the occult world, body sensations were seen as indicators, not controllers. They pointed to movement in the spiritual realm, but they did not determine the outcome. The outcome was determined by authority, and authority always belonged to the spiritually aware. When the left palm itched, dark practitioners did not assume success. They watched for the reaction of the target, because the reaction decided everything. If the person stayed silent, the transfer continued. If the person stayed passive, the door stayed open. If the person stayed unaware, the operation completed. But if the person responded with spiritual authority, everything changed. The ex-witch said that some of the most powerful disruptions they ever witnessed came from simple, immediate prayers. Not long prayers, not dramatic rituals. Just a person who felt the signal and responded with authority. That response alone could collapse an entire spiritual assignment, because authority is a higher law in the spiritual realm. Darkness does not fear ignorance, it feeds on it. But authority forces darkness to retreat, and that is the truth most people never learn. Your body may send signals, your palm may itch, your atmosphere may shift, but those things do not control your destiny. Your authority does. The ex-witch explained that many people unknowingly gave permission to negative transfer simply by doing nothing. No prayer, no declaration, no awareness. And in the spiritual realm, silence often looks like agreement. That is why spiritual authority must be activated quickly. When the signal comes, you do not panic. You do not fear. You do not assume the worst. You respond with faith. You take control of your atmosphere. You speak over your life, because your words carry authority. Your prayers carry authority. Your alignment with God carries authority. And authority changes outcomes. Imagine two people experiencing the same left palm itch. One ignores it, keeps scrolling on their phone, does nothing. The other pauses, prays, declares protection, speaks blessings over their life. Both felt the same signal, but only one activated authority. And in the spiritual realm, that difference is enormous. The ex-witch said that spiritual authority was the one thing dark practitioners could not override without permission. They could attempt attacks, They could initiate transfers. They could send assignments. But when a person stood in spiritual authority, the operations often failed because authority creates spiritual resistance. It closes doors. It blocks entries. It redirects what was meant for harm. So the left palm itch is not something to fear. It is a reminder that spiritual movement exists, a reminder that awareness matters, a reminder that you have authority. And once you understand that, the signal loses its power to intimidate you. Instead, it becomes a trigger for prayer, a moment of alignment, a call to activate your spiritual covering. The ex-witch said that the people who walked in authority were the most difficult to touch. Not because they were perfect, not because they never faced attacks, but because they never stayed passive. Every signal became a moment of activation. Every strange sensation became a prayer point. Every shift became an opportunity to take authority. And over time, the spiritual atmosphere around them changed. Attacks decreased. Opportunities increased. Peace became more consistent because authority was active. So the next time your left palm begins to itch, do not laugh it off. Do not panic. Do not ignore it. Pause. Become aware. Take authority. Speak life over your finances. Speak protection over your household. Speak alignment over your future. Because the signal is not the end of the story. Your response is. And once you start responding with authority, you stop being a passive receiver. You become a spiritual gatekeeper. You are not powerless. You are not a silent target. You are a carrier of spiritual authority. Every signal is a call to rise, not a reason to fear. What once intimidated you will now activate you. What once entered your life without resistance will now meet authority. Stand alert, stand covered, and walk forward knowing nothing enters your life without your permission.